Welcome. Welcome to Moon to Moon. In this episode, I'm sharing another conversation that I'm calling my series Living Emergence. So, my guest today is Lisa Quigley, who I will introduce in a minute. And this is one of now a handful of conversations that I have published. I have many more scheduled where I'm going to be engaging with other human beings, people I admire, people who I've been connected with for some time, people who I see living emergence in their own unique ways out in the world, who I trust have things to say, about living and things to say about emergence through the particular chart that they have, through the particular bodies that they have, through the modalities that they practice, and through the ways that they show up on their own pathways in this world. So I'm really, really enjoying this series, and listeners, I hope you're enjoying these as well. I hope that this is a long-term project and one that, really, really shows the breadth of what emergence can mean for us humans living in this timeline together. So, as you know by now, very likely, Living Emergence is also the name of the new offering, this community home world that I've been dreaming on for most of 2025. It is now currently open and filling up with humans that have been with me for some time. Many of the people who've joined I've known since I first started teaching. Many have just found me and are in Emergence Astrology Year 1. It's a mix of humans who are in past and present longer term containers that I host over in my school, my Emergence Astrology school. And on November 4th, this space is going to open up to everybody, and the doors will be open until November 20th. So if you're following along these conversations, if you're following along with me in the promo pathway, and you are feeling called to experiment with your belonging to the place, then just pay attention to the signals of when things start to be available to dive in. Note that November 4th, there's an extra discount on that day from the 24 hours from when it opens early in the morning, Central Standard Time, with a chart that was chosen on purpose. So I want to give a few updates before I dive into introducing Lisa and getting us to the conversation. So that November 4th date is a hot date. I talk about this in episode 202 that you may have heard. If you haven't heard, starting today, when this episode airs, I'm leading a 10-day series called The 9 Boredoms of the Rightful Baddie. This is a free series. It's going to be coming out through email, then with links to videos and a community chat space where you would have the opportunity to respond and expand upon, challenge, open out, deconstruct, whatever feels fun. The prompts, the invitations, the spells, the questions, the hot speech that I offer as I discuss what I mean by the 9 boredoms of the rightful baddie. It's an ambiguous title on purpose. By boredom, I mean the temptations we have to dim our life force, to hide our brightness, to silence our voice, to mute our style in order to stay safe. There are a lot of seductive qualities to the boredoms that we can get stuck inside. But these boredoms are a quagmire. And this is not the bog of the bog witch, you know? It's not a magical bog. It's a very non-magical feeling bog. It's not fun to be in the bog. But it served its purpose for our younger self. And maybe you're interested in unspelling those spells to come into more of your rightful baddiness. So interested? I can't wait to tell you about the 9. If you want to participate, there's a link in the show notes that will take you to my mailing list. There might be a link at that time to go directly into the video space. Whichever one is provided, choose that, and that will get you access and into this. It's free. Come play. You're going to learn a lot. It's going to be very catalyzing. That will culminate and end with the 9th boredom on November 4th. We start the 26th on Sunday. There's an intro day, and then the 9 boredoms we complete November 4th. And then on November 4th, it's also going to be the first of the 5 sessions for Mystics Making Money number 3. Many of y'all know that I do this seasonal workshop to support those out there with creative abilities, magical abilities, intuitive abilities, mystical skill sets, which is P.S. everyone. But if you're interested in feeling more skilled, feeling more creative, magical, confident, just like in the flow of the abundance of exchange and reciprocity with your clients, your community, but also just anyone that you're engaging with in your life. The theme for the 3rd Mystics Making Money is vulture magic, specifically there on hunger, death, and the erotic. Very scorpionic themes that I've been talking about for years that infuse all of my work. Love to talk about it. Love to talk about the no and how getting clear on your no and your yes guide the way. How do you know what a no and a yes is? This is going to come from an erotic place, not a mental place. And so that's going to be the big theme there. And that you can either sign up for by itself, or you can jump in on November 4th, the first day of Living Emergence, and then get Mystics Making Money as part of your membership. So all the people that are in Living Emergence get past, present, and future Mystics Making Monies as part of our exchange, and as long as you're there. So if you will have that choice on November 4th, if you want to get into Mystics and Making Money, to either just get the Mystics Making Money or dive into Living Emergence. It will be the same cost. One would just be a one-time cost, and the other is your monthly cost. All right. So because Living Emergence is a space where you can leave at any time, I'm hoping that you will choose the option to dive into Living Emergence so that you can not only get Vulture Magic, the theme of Mystics Making Money number 3, but you will also get access to everything else that I have in there, including my resource library that's worth thousands of dollars of resources of the things that I've created in the past, and can dive you deep, deep, deep into my work. Also gets you access to the community forum with brilliant, big-hearted humans here to celebrate and support one another. And it also gives you access to all kinds of other things that I'm going to be doing in there that I've never done before, because it will also be an emergent space for me as a creative leader. So that's the updates. Now let's get on to the conversation. Let me introduce Lisa Quigley for those of you who may not heard of Lisa. Lisa Quigley is a multimodality oracular artist and galactic witch here to bridge Earth and cosmos. She is an award nominated author with 10 plus years experience in writing, editing, and publishing. And she's been in the field of esoteric arts for 15 plus years. However, the story of the reclamation of her oracular gifts is messy and nonlinear, at times even downright embarrassing. She is not the guide for anyone looking to disown their mess. What she will do is help you to reclaim the living mythology that is your life, your oracular nature, and your destiny. She works with weirdos, black sheep, misfits, and outcasts to clear rejection codes, supercharge their magnetism, refine their oracular artistry, and become visionary leaders. Lisa has a new psychic reader immersion that's coming up. It begins October 30th. We talk about this in the conversation. So if you're hearing this episode on or before October 30th and you feel really pulled to come into this, you can learn about Soothsayer through the link in the show notes. If you missed the opportunity, I encourage you to connect with Lisa through Instagram, where she creates phenomenal content. This is how we connected, is through enjoying each other's Instagrams. And Lisa has been part of my community for a long time. Many of you know that Lisa was one of the 13th readers for the Magician's Table of 2025. So we also have a conversation that you can tune back to that was in, say, like probably February of 2025. When I interviewed each of the 13th readers back there. But I'm pretty sure she also was on a solo episode around winter of 2024, after having been in the Magician's Table 2023 as a participant. So we go way back, and I just really, really love exploring esoteric topics, the weird and the strange topics with Lisa Quigley. And I hope you enjoy this conversation with Lisa on Living Emergence. Welcome back to Moon, Lisa Quigley. It's always good to see you.
You too, Britton. I'm so happy to be here and to talk with you again in this way.
Yeah. Thanks for your exuberance when I shared the theme of Living Emergence, and being willing to play with me on what comes up for you around the topic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I've been beginning with the question of what does living emergence mean for you or feel like for you, or what comes up for you when you tap into it, and we'll just let the conversation play from there.
So I've been thinking about this since you posed the question to me. And I had to actually a couple of times stop myself from doing one of my solo monologues where I try to talk it out on my own ahead of time, because I was like, that's not emergent. I can't practice. I got to see what it's going to be like in person or what I feel in the moment. And so that's part of it, is that it's this, for me, what it feels like is this day to day, moment to moment engagement with the living pulse of life,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds fancy, but I was thinking today, actually, what does that feel like in practice? And I started thinking about my work and how I'm having this sense this year of my work crystallizing. But as it crystallizes, something really strange is happening, where it's like there is more of it that's crystallizing, but as that happens, I'm sensing more of it that I still can't see. And there's this strange paradox of the more I think I know about it, the less I actually know about it. And that's kind of a tangible example of what it feels like. And then I think where living emergence comes in, and especially if we're positioning it in that way, is learning this way of engaging with life that is fluid and flowing and in relationship to that flexibility, where I feel like perhaps as my work is crystallizing, there's a temptation to want to freeze it. Like, I got it, you know? But then I lose that aliveness that is, it's like this wild lion that's impossible to tame. Like, I can't nail it down. I can't freeze it. I have to let it be this wild thing that I still don't really know what it is, even as I know more of it.
Mm. Yeah, I really relate to that with my own. Just what am I getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wanting to freeze it. I think for me, it's like wanting to freeze it so you can see it from like every angle and like know about every little crevice. But you're only ever seeing it partially because even as you see so much in the next moment, it's like shifting again
Yeah.
and something is receding from view and something new is coming forward. And so once again, you're in this experience of seeing it, but still impartially. And it's like the thrill of the like denial of all the information. Um, with like the frustration of like, I just want to see it all. Does that resonate?
Yeah. 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 And I have this strange feeling, and I think it's just maybe it's an unlearning that's happening, or there's a sweet part of ourselves that's wanting some kind of safety to be able, because it's not a mainstream way to live or relate to anything. You know, you need to be able to lock it down, to say what it is, to, and as soon as I think I can say what it is, it's like another part shows itself and I'm like, oh, we're doing that. And then I feel like, am I still doing the other thing? Is that like, and it's so, and then it, sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no, sometimes it's just yes, but in a new way. And so that's so emergent to me to live in that way and to relate to something in that way, because it doesn't really match with what maybe a mainstream business and marketing person would tell you is how you should pin down a business or talk about it or something. Not that living emergence has to only be in the context of, a business, but I do think about it a lot in how I relate to my work, because, and I was specifically thinking about it today because I was like, whoa, this is so cool. This piece is coming out. And then I'm starting to feel this other piece come in and I'm like, well, where does this? And I can feel myself wanting to fit it all into some neat package, and it just, I don't know if it's just the nature of it. I also have a Gemini fifth house with Chiron there. So it's like, I don't know. I think that's just how it works for me. But
You know, I'm just getting this feeling like talking about this in the context of being a parent. And so it's funny you just said fifth house because that's the parenting house. Because um likewise, as you watch your children changing, you think you know who they are, and then they're growing. They have different parts of them show up, and I think that there can be an over cultural um, sense that we're supposed to like push them into an identity or like push them into a role or push them into a pathway that's like, you're athletic, so you should be on this pathway. You know what I mean? Or like, you have leadership abilities, so this is the pathway you should be on. And like to be living emergence, I feel like as a mother in this case, just because between the two of us here as mothers, um, just like parenting without putting them in an identity box that suggests a particular pathway that they should get on. I feel like it's like a similar process, parenting to creativity and work. And does that resonate?
Mm-hmm. It does. And I think as you were saying that, what was popping into my head was just how we don't tend to relate to each other emergently a lot. Like that's not how we're taught. And I think a lot of our relational challenges likely come from this attempt to freeze each other. Like a lot,
Yes.
freeze, you were this person,
Yes.
and I don't understand why you're this person now. I have a picture of you as this person, and instead of just allowing them to be different people, different times, at different times, and even thinking about how, I could go back home to visit my family and so easily fall into a groove around them that I am a way I'm used to acting around them, just because it's like I go into that environment and I'm like, mwah, like, who do they expect me to be? Who do I expect them to be? What are we going to fight about today? And like, none of it is even necessarily real because it's not coming from that emergent place. It is this frozen in time place that we all travel back to whenever we're around each other, and these versions that we're expecting each other to be, and also that they're expecting you to be. And then we all just kind of keep playing that out. And so I think I think about that in context of being a parent too, because it's like, how do you know your kids, but then also allow them to be knowing themselves and teaching you who they are in every moment without locking them into a frozen dynamic, which is probably some of the greatest of life's questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And like maybe now they need you a certain way, allowing them, like granting the future them the right to say they don't need that anymore from you. Like that is so intense with parenting. And the truth is, it's with everything when from
Yeah.
an emergence perspective.
Yeah. I had this visceral moment last week. I was on the couch. We were watching, I think it was one of the Harry Potter movies. My son had never seen them before. He's 8. And we're all in the living room. My daughter, who's 5, was with my husband, and my son and I were laying on the couch, and we were just fully cuddling, watching this movie. And I'm suddenly like really brought into the moment of realizing that my son is 8. And I'm like, it's possible that within the next 2 years, he's not going to want to snuggle with me like this. And this part of our relationship is going to be over.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, not, who knows? I'm not putting that on him either. He can tell me in his own time, but I just had this moment. I'm like, this could happen literally that soon, I'm like, and then this phase of our relationship we shift into a new phase. And I'm like, whoa, this is so, I felt the ephemeral quality of it. You know how when they're super little, it feels like it's lasting forever, and they're little and need you in a certain way forever. But I felt how, oh wow, I'm getting my first glimpse of this could be shifting. And then it's a new phase of parenthood and our new phase of our relationship. And I was also thinking of how I see and have seen people in dynamics with parents where, you know, maybe the parent doesn't want to let the phase end or forces things or wants to grip to a certain place in the relationship. So that's something I've been thinking about since then, because I was like, whoa, it just kind of hit me. I'm like, this definitely will end at some point, but it could happen that soon. I was like, wow, what's
Yeah,
happening? Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I think about that a lot with like the affection category. It is so emergent any given moment, like whether I'm not allowed to touch any part of them, like don't touch my hair. I told you I hate it when you touch my hair, to
Yeah.
just like wanting to full blown hold hands through the airport and like it's like, okay, that's what's here today.
Yeah.
I have to be available to stay in that liberated place with them. It's like being that there's such an openness level that is wanted. And I think it's such good practice for everything. Cause like, yeah, in the creative life, um, what happens when you're available to like, oh, I previously thought I was not creative. And now I'm available to the openness of maybe I am or something,
Yeah.
like being able to step into new pathways requires that openness to not be so rigid in our self concept or like the way things are and the way things work for us. Um, and it's like the trade in that openness is like we can't freeze things.
Yeah.
uh we never can actually, but we
No.
can believe that, you can either have the belief that you can freeze things or you can decide that that is actually not a real thing. It's a fantasy. And what can we play with when we can't actually freeze things in time,
Yeah. Yeah. And even the example you're giving with your daughters, it's like that takes a level of openness and attunement and also maturity, because there's a way that you could take that personally and it's not personal, it's not, but your feelings about it can be your feelings, but it's not to put that on them of like, you let me hold your hand last week.
Yeah, exactly.
you
I feel
know?
like a massive percentage of all my inner child healing is just learning how to allow them to be in whatever mood they're in that day vis-a-vis me, and and how I can just let that be whatever their day is. It's
Yeah.
not personal. Um, yeah, wow. That's really fun that we went to the fifth house place.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Gemini there. That's a lot of change for you to play with.
Yeah. It definitely has this feeling of anytime I think I understand it, it wants to be something else, or it's like, ooh, let's try this. Let's try that. This is cool, and then learning to let that be okay and not try to freeze it and not try to freeze my identity as I do this thing, I do that thing, I'm this kind of teacher, I'm this kind of creative. It just, I have to allow it to be in flux and shifting which can feel really frustrating sometimes when it's like you just want to pin it down. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I imagine that, um, I mean, in your realms, including channeling, say, um, like what very little is as emergent as channeling.
Yeah.
It's like, I imagine for you, I would love to hear you just talk about it, like how one of your modalities, at least that one, but maybe every single one of them, is like basically teaching you how to be emergent in order to grow skill in it.
I think, well, especially if we're looking at channeling, channeling is something that I find so fun and cool and strange. And it's like the ultimate suspension of disbelief. Because it's like, am I just making this all up, or am I whatever, and so it requires actually just that you have to be emergent to engage with it. I mean, you don't have to be, but I think it makes it more, I don't know, a fight with myself less if I just let it be emergent, let it be this thing that I don't really know what it is and don't really know how it's possible, but also that I can be still building skill in at the same time. And I also know that, especially working with Mary Greasy, who I know you've worked with, I just finished another round with her, and there's too many times now where she guides me into a channel state and we call in my guide, and sometimes I don't even say anything. We'll just sit in the energy together and we both have the same experience of the guide. I'll be having this very specific experience and then Mary will be like, this is what was happening for me. And I'm like, that is getting chills because I'm like, that is wild. So there's this way that it's like, I just have to stay open to the possibility of it. And I also know and sense something real is happening. But I also have a very strong skeptic that almost as soon as I'm out of it comes in and is like, are you really doing that?
Imposter.
Yeah. um and I say it's like so fun and one of my most favorite skills to develop, but it's also the one that scares me the most because it's so uh it requires such suspension of disbelief, and such trust and such a willingness to just be like, I don't really know what this is, I don't know how this works. I don't know how this is even possible, but I also know something is transpiring. Um, I will say actually what scares me more than channeling is mediumship,
Tell
which
me about it.
I haven't really developed too much. I did one of Mary's courses on mediumship, but I think mediumship scares me because um it's confirmable or not confirmable,
Yeah, yes.
evidential mediumship. And so there's that level where I still have an edge there where practicing mediumship with a person where I'm reading for freaks me out because it's like I can get it right or I can get it wrong in a tangible sense, right? Or like in a evidential sense where so then I'm like, whereas when you channel, I have channeled and given confirmable things to people, but it doesn't usually come through in the same way that mediumship does. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's still a way where it's usually like a message that the person is like, that is what I'm going through in my life and it feels really resonant. You know what I mean? But it's not like that was my grandma.
Right.
And it's like
Yeah.
that. So there is that edge for me where there are parts of me that are still afraid of, because of my own doubts and my own skepticism, afraid of, what if I try this and get it wrong? Like that's always, I don't know if that ever fully goes away, but
I don't know that it does. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first test that I did with Mary for channeling for another person. I had crazy evidence show up affirming that this person, there were a lot of connections with the stranger that she had called in to be my sitter. And Mary shared that, like, her first ever mediumship was the most evidentiary because it was, she feels like your guides are trying to help you trust that it's real, but you may never get that much evidence again. you know? but uh, yeah, I do think that that's like the actual magic skill is holding the critic, the skeptic, and still doing it anyway and staying open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it emergent too,
Mm-hmm.
because to steamroll or bypass that part would be a form of freezing or denial, or it's, to me, okay, if we're getting into like what is emergence, emergence is being with what's here. I'm here doing this channeled reading, and while I'm doing this channeled reading, I have a skeptic on my shoulder. That's what's here. you
Yes.
know and not letting that be a problem or a deterrent or something that you start turning toward and listening to instead. It's like it's there, that's okay. you know
Yes. That's so true because if you are like, nope, I don't have a skeptic, everything's great. Well, are you really being with what's here?
Yeah.
Part of being with what's here is like the contradictory or paradoxical thing that's also in the room, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. It's funny because I feel like the last time you came on, we also had some really good words on the skeptic. Um, yeah. Does you feel like that's a way you help people a lot?
Yeah. um oh, I think last time it was because I was talking about people in our life being skeptical, and then the skeptical person I have that internally, which I think is why I will see it externally too. um yeah, I think there's a way that when I'm working with people, it here's what I'll say. I find myself working with people regarding that the most. It's one, to not, to know that that's normal. We all have it. And then also to learn how to stop being the primary thing you're tuning into, is that skeptic or the part of you that says, I could never be that, I'm not gifted, I probably don't have the gifts other people have. And just learning how to attune to your soul, what you came here to do. um because I feel like when I first got started in all of this, I mean, even if we go all the way back to when I was like 20, picking up a book on magic, on witchcraft, I had this conception in my head that if you're someone who does this stuff, you probably popped out with these abilities already on full
Yeah.
blast, or that I had like probably pictures of what a psychic was based on media and movies. I felt like that I would read these books and be like, feel this longing. But then I would think, I don't have that. I've never heard anyone's thoughts or like, I've never, had a vision. But I still kind of thought that visions were cinematic, like in a movie, like how a movie will show someone having a vision and they're like popping out of, and maybe it
Yes.
does happen like that spontaneously for some people, but I didn't realize that these were um the way I've been kind of languaging it is that we just like we're born with ears, eyes, mouth, nose for physical sensing, our energy bodies have things in them for psychic sensing. We just don't learn how to develop them. They're turned way down because we have all our physical senses turned way up, and that's what we prioritize the material and the physical. But everybody has these. Doesn't mean everybody wants to use them or will use them in this lifetime, but I didn't know that. I thought, oh, you have to be born with special skills or special gifts, but that we all have these parts of our energy body that are designed to help us sense in these subtle ways, that we just have to learn how to develop them and turn up the volume on that versus on the skeptic that needs the material to prove it. So I feel like that's more the place I end up helping people or supporting people through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I resonate with that a lot for myself. Just like just imagining it was like that's for people like that or something like that.
Yeah.
Um not not realizing that I mean, yes, there are people who can from childhood recognize their gifts so loudly, but I think even and you may resonate with this too, like now I look back at childhood and recognize like, oh, I developed that pattern to help me cope with all that information that was coming in that
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed by because nobody was teaching me what to do with it, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about that all the time too, where I wonder, I think I was pretty psychic as a kid, but I didn't have a context for calling it that. So I would just say I had a great imagination, you
Yeah.
know, and then eventually probably to cope with, and I haven't been able to track it exactly because some of it's fuzzy, but when I look back I'm like I used to see things but I wouldn't have categorized it as that because I didn't have the the language or the framework to do that, so I would just call it imagining. I was imagining things. I would get visions, but I was had a good imagination, and I think that that's where when I was little I was writing stories all the time because I would get these images in my mind, and then I would need to write a story to get to that image, like a story
Huh.
would build around that image. But I didn't think that that was being psychic. I thought I just was a writer with a good imagination.
Yes. Yeah. This conversation is just like feeling back into younger self. And I feel like another thing for me was I think I was always I could see someone and know what their pain was. And I was
Mm.
like, I think I started to develop reclusive qualities because of the like exhaustion of being around pain.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. And
And
then
not knowing how to deal with that, like hold it, how I was just taking it in.
mm-hmm. And no tools for that's not mine. I can keep
Yes.
it on the outside of my space. Like I don't have to, you're just like absorb, you're like pain.
Everyone has so much pain. Yeah. But yeah, it's speaking of motherhood, it is a cool thing to be able to articulate some of that. I'm sure you've seen that with your own kids of just being able to recognize when they're having an absorbent moment or like a psychic moment, and you can articulate it in a way that you never got.
Yeah. Yeah. All the time. All the time. And that can be in both really practical ways, in the sense of, you know, just a really cool example was, I think it was this morning or yesterday morning. I was helping my kids get ready for school, and my daughter is hit or miss with her moods. And she was,
Emergently.
yes, her moods are very emergent. And we were trying to get, teeth brushed and all of that, and my daughter was just like, she's only 5, so she was just everything my son did. She was had a little snappy comment. She was like, get out of here, just that was her mood. And my son comes in, he goes, well, I did start off in a good mood this morning, but now I'm gonna have a bad day. And I was like, and I said, you don't have to let her mood affect your mood. You're allowed to still have your mood. And he said, really? And I said, yeah. And he goes, huh. He goes, okay, I won't, I'll still have a good day then, or something like that. But even so, in these really practical ways where maybe I'm not telling it to them like through energy or making it the psychic thing, but I'm like, there is a energy exchange that's happening there that I could just find simple language to tell him. But my son's also legitimately very psychic too. And he has seen things since he was very little, and I don't know if he sees them to the degree he did, but I think I never shut him down or told him um I didn't believe him, or I never got scared. Sometimes he would see like unsettling things too. But, and if he was scared, I would tell him, like, I would say, instead of that's not real, I would say, you don't have to let that in here, or something like that. You can tell it to please leave, and it has to go. So I would teach him stuff like that. But he doesn't, I don't know how much he sees still, but he still tells me, and he's told me this since he was like 3 years old, that he doesn't answer me sometimes when I'm calling him, because he always hears the ancestors saying his name.
Oh my God.
He's like, they're always saying Fallon, Fallon. My son's name is Fallon. And so I remember when I was 3 years old, I was calling him and he wasn't coming or answering me. And I'm like, buddy, did you hear me? And he goes, I thought it was the ancestors.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so he did tell me recently that he still hears them say his name sometimes. So, but I could go on a huge tangent with him, but he's very, very connected and very open and curious. And that's an interesting emergent dance too, because I want to share my tools and perspectives with him, but I also don't want to push him or make him be like, you have to be this psychic guy because I'm into this stuff, but I here to answer his questions. I also don't shut him down. That's an interesting dance too, because you know there's this line between sharing and being open and flexible, but also I don't want to indoctrinate him that he has to be the psychic kid or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that this is a beautiful part of emergence that we were speaking to earlier around like keeping our relationships in present time, right? Like with kids or anyone really, if there's like a sense that the kid or the friend need to get into what you're into for the relationship, then there's like a tether
Mm-hmm.
energetically that can pull us back into the past if that's no longer resonant with one of the parties.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like keeping that openness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm sensitive to it because I did grow up in a really religious home where I think we've talked about this before, but the religion was a condition for love and belonging, you know? And so I think I'm just aware of I want to treat that all lightly. I don't want to force my worldview on him on either of my kids, but at the same time, I if they ask questions, I tell them what I think. I actually usually say, "What do you think?" That's my first.
Yeah.
And then we talk, and my son is he's a sponge. He's really into one video game he plays has gotten him really into Greek mythology, and I'm pretty open about letting him learn about all of it. And he hears friends at school talk about Jesus because we live in an area where a lot of people are Catholic. But he'll talk about Jesus and Thor and Zeus all in the same, like they're all in the same playing field for him. um, so it's fun. It's fun to explore with him, but without, pushing any of it on him.
Yeah, it feels like there's a theme here around the relationship between emergence and like the openness that comes from not pushing, the kind of like freedom to not like force a thing,
Mm-hmm.
freezing a thing that we were saying before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I gave a reading to somebody this morning, and this is one of the themes that came up. So I'm like, maybe I'm in that space, but it's this way that we want to, like, maybe we have an idealized version of how something should be, and then we'll do all these things to try to control others to get to where we want them to be or to see it how we want them to see it. But actually, what we're looking for comes in that place where we're just doing what's ours. And then we're being an example, a model of a way things can be. And that energy is what's influential and hasn't, but it's not influential in this controlling way. It's influential in like a way that inspires that in others or shows them that this is possible for you too, which can be confronting or inspiring depending on where they are. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious how much contact is a theme in your work lately and like what's emerging for you there.
Yeah. So this is so connected to what we were talking about earlier with things crystallizing and also at the same time morphing. And it's this, it's that. What is it? you know? Um, and I think for me, contact is always going to be, it's always here. It's still here. I want to do something probably in Aquarius season where I'm bringing that more to the forefront again. Um, but it's just such a weird thing. Like and for anybody who doesn't know, we're talking about contact with extraterrestrials. um, I'm like
Non-human intelligence.
non-human intelligence. um, whatever you want to, multidimensional beings. I have had these crazy experiences where I have basically woken up and had experiences where I'm waking up on ships and waking up with these beings around me. It's happening in an altered state. So I think some people would say I'm dreaming, but the quality of the fit, like, it's definitely different from a dream, if that makes sense. It's like I know my body's in the bed, but a literal part of my energy body is doing something else. But for a long time, these experiences were actually really scary. And I was processing some really deep fear, and I was working with one of my contact mentor, or the main person I work with on this, um, to move through that. And there was one I had that was so terrifying. This was actually during the Magician's Table. Uh, and it was actually the day before our meetup. And I spent the morning just like, I don't even know if I want to try to do that anymore. Like, this is so scary. Um, and it's not that anything specifically bad was happening, just the energy was so confronting because it was so non-human and so different from what I was used to, that it just brought up so much fear. And I basically I listened to one of the audios from one of my teachers to try to situate myself in it. And I happened to pull one of the times she had been channeling. She channels, this is, I work with Lisa Royal Holt, who channels galactic beings and does a lot of contact work with people. And she had been channeling the main being that she works with, and someone had asked a question and was like crying because they had had a scary contact experience. And I had this weird experience where the answer she gave felt like it was for me, which it always is when you're channeling. It's for whoever hears it when they hear it, you know? um, and basically what she said was like, when you're having the fear is a good sign, and that if you stay with it and stay with yourself, that level of fear means you're just on the precipice of a breakthrough. And the breakthrough isn't like, it's not like this aspirational thing, but it's literally like a clearing of illusion that's making you think it's scary, but it actually is a distortion that's making it a distortion in your belief system, right? And so you kind of, the way she teaches it, there's like these levels and layers of fear from beliefs and programming and distortion that we kind of collect. That makes it hard for us to have a clear experience of contact. So I decided to stick with it. And it was literally like almost like I just had to get to that point. And the next one I had was, I literally like woke up in the middle of the night and there were blinking lights in my room. Like, I was just seeing, almost was like there was a ship outside my window, and I was seeing like the lights circle like this in my, if there was outside and you could see
Yes.
them. Yeah. And I just stared at the lights and I was like, that's weird. I go, I think there's a ship outside. And then I hear the being talking for the first time, clearly undistorted. It was like when you hear people go like, like that, like, but it was not that. It was like, that's an imitation of what it actually sounds like. And I just was like listening, and it was like they were all the way outside my house and talking to me, and I just didn't see them, but I heard them, and I was like in awe. It was like I finally was able to have this undistorted experience where I could just hear them talking to me. And I didn't know what they were saying, but I've actually since channeled that being. That's a wild experience too. But and then ever since then, it was like I had a few more where it wasn't scary. It was actually like awe inspiring. And I was like, wow. And then it started to sort of settle. Um, and now, and at first I was like, did they stop visiting me? Are they not coming back? You know? And what they've been communicating to me through channeling and then just as I've been sitting with it is that there's a way that our mind makes that kind of contact the important thing, but the that's still like a separation, you know? And what I'm in this phase now of like integrating contact as like a daily part of my life, and like I'm just sort of getting little subtle messages. They're wanting me to go into this phase of subtle contact where it's happening all the time in subtle ways and noticing when they're communicating with me. And yeah, but I don't know, that doesn't mean it won't ever be dramatic again. But so then in terms of my work, it's like i'm I'm really getting clear, at least for now, that because another big thing I notice is that when people get into something like contact, and a big thing I've had to navigate in being in that space in any way whatsoever is that it's loaded with distortion. It is loaded with distortion. And what I mean by that is that it can be completely ungrounding. It can completely take you into delusions and fantasies, and like it can make you lose touch with emergence actually, because you're now in this, I don't know how to articulate it, but it can make you lose touch with um, the pulse of life, because now it's like you're just disoriented.
Mm.
So what I have been we navigating is that I really like I have this strong connection to these beings for a reason, but I think we're also at a time when the the goal is not to escape Earth and what's happening, and we're not looking for saviors, right? Like I think there's a way we can kind of put a savior archetype onto extraterrestrials, like they're going to come rescue Earth from all the bad things happening here, you know, and then it's going to get all better. But how my work with them is evolving is like we're remembering that first of all we are them, and um we're weaving the wisdom that they have to offer in a mentor way, where it's like and I was just talking about this with someone too, the mentor, a good mentor doesn't do it for you. A good mentor has keys and, you know, spells and codes and tips, but then you do the journey. And so it's like, how do we um collaborate with this wisdom that they have to offer, but then really ground it into what does that mean for planet Earth though? And how do we um integrate that back into our Earth lives, and uh yeah, use that knowingness or that remembrance to shift how we show up on Earth. So I feel like that's where I am with it at the moment. That was a very long answer.
I love it. What a journey. Yeah. Yeah, I like remember like a month ago or so, like culture was really into the rapture. Do you remember? Okay. It was sometimes like contact space can feel like
Yeah.
indistinguishable from rapture talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love what you're painting there. And it feels so like, let's take it here, like how is this helpful
Yeah.
at like our
Yeah.
everyday lives, walking this timeline on this planet right now in our world?
Yeah. Um, that piece about the rapture and how it can feel indistinguishable, I often think, and that's where the ungrounded and escapism piece I think can come in, is that if you're not grounding it, it's like a weave of both. We need the cosmic wisdom and the earth wisdom to kind of meet on the earth
Yeah.
plane. But something I think is often happening, we could think about this, how people will sometimes, I know there's a million different ways it's being talked about, but one way that you can hear it talked about in those spaces is that if we just get high vibration and refine our vibration and refine what we're eating and meditate and listen to these frequencies, then we're going to become 5D and live in, 5D Earth, which is like the rapture.
It is.
But I think what's happening, and this is why it has to be re-grounded back into the now, is I actually think a lot of times that's a future, they're getting a far, far, far future transmission
Mm.
that so maybe in like a billion years or something, that's where we are. And they're getting a real download of maybe we do live in light bodies and things are different. But when you're not grounding that information, first of all, grounding it back into the physical present time, what's happening on earth now, and when you're filtering it through the layers of distortion of belief systems that you don't even know about, you get rapture fantasies, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not, and I'm not saying it's not real on some plane. I think it's real, but it's like, to me, that's not helping us now. And I didn't get born into 5D Earth. I got born into this Earth. So I'm not here to do that. But I do think there's a way I'm called to weave it together somehow. It's like ancient future, and but bring it meets here. And um yeah.
Yes. I love this too because it's bringing us back to um, the present moment as where emergence happens, and then how that happens on this earth that we live on together.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to teach a psychic immersion, but what the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I got this when I was thinking about how to teach readings or how I would like to teach readings, I got this download called the Cross of Attunement, which is you, the psychic, the sitter, and then present time and infinite time, so earth and cosmos, and it creates this plane, this cross plane. um and I just feel like that's so important for this type of work, is that it's not happening out there, it's not happening in the future, it's not, you're literally sitting down with a person, attuning to them in the moment. And then I do think there is this piece where we do have and you talk about this with potential, with the idea of potential being a fantasy, right? And the way I've been kind of weaving this in is that I think there is this infinite this out of time, this infinite stream that of all these possibilities that we could tune into, you know, any timeline we could attune to. But if you're only attuning to that, you miss the human person in front of you. And if you're um not bringing that in at all, you're not necessarily um there's a lack of that expansiveness, right? But it's like,
Yes.
how do you ground that with what's happening in the present moment and where this person is in the present moment? And I think that that kind of idea of just like attuning in present time, where we are also tuning into, well, what's possible, but we're not just floating out into being like far into the future. You know what I mean? Like we want to ground it into this moment. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that so much. And it also it just provides the visual to hook into when you feel lost because
Hmm.
it is so expansive.
Hmm.
Um, Emergence is expansive. So how do we root it, you know?
Hmm.
We could get overwhelmed at the number of possibilities that emergence is seems to be like seducing us into and connecting to like how do you know the most appropriate one to tap into today. I do think that that comes from being in relationship to your human body in present time um, on this planet. So why don't you tell us some more about the container?
Yeah. Um, so it's called Soothsayer. I back in, I think it was late May, I had a dream. It was during Magician's Table, 2025. I had a dream and I woke up and wrote down something like they would put the teeth in their mouths and get oracular visions, soothsayer. And I was like, in parentheses, I was like, oracular development class. Like that was my whole thing. And I think this is so cool because it soothsayer, it's not a word that I had previously had front and center. And when I think of the word soothsayer, it sounds very ancient, or I have been getting this feel, it's very Scorpio energy. And I've been getting this feel of like bones and how they would like do divination with bones and teeth and things like this. But but it's coming through now in this way to be updated to present time. It's not like we're going to sit around in this class and put teeth in our mouths and you know, divine with bones, although you could, I'm sure, if that's your modality. And I'm teaching this not necessarily as a modality. So let me just back up. It's a 6 week psychic reader immersion uh, to attune to your truth voice. And soothsayer means truth teller, which it's
Hmm.
cool. Um, and uh, it's live via Zoom once a week. We're going to meet, and I'm going to do different teachings on what I'm calling the cross of attunement, and then the flow of a living reading and how we do all that. So I'm not teaching it as a specific modality, but it's for people who are called to some kind of psychic reading and maybe have an experience like I used to have, which was sitting down, feeling very psychic and intuitive and very gifted. Like I used to be with my tarot decks and be like, I'm really good at this. But then I would get in front of a person and just panic and like, I don't know how to do this. Um, but I want to help settle and ground some of that energy. And our focus is going to be on the skill of attunement. And then my hope and goal is that this is a framework that you could apply to any style of psychic reading that you do, whether it's tarot, whether it's cardless, whether it's even if you're an astrology reader who wants to bring more psychic sensing into your readings. But yeah, and the big thing is that it's coming through now, to be interpreted and filtered into a modern world. We're not these ancient oracles. We're not imprinting that. We're not trying to be priestesses in temples. We're moms who do drop off, or we are people who have a 9 to 5 or whatever. We're people who watch, I don't know, I'm watching Dexter right now, rewatching it. So, like we're regular people who want to learn this skill of attunement for a modern world. Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll share about those links in the show notes, listeners, if you are listening in October 2025. Anything else you want to share before we close?
I think just because the idea of attunement has been so present for me, I've been like, what is attunement? What does it mean to attune? And I actually feel like attunement and emergence are so connected, because when, like, I actually think it's really challenging to live emergently or find an emergent pathway if you're not attuning. And that's not to, be shamey about it, but it is, if you're like, there's so much noise and you're hearing other people's opinions and other people's direction and other people's guidance, and you're listening to this teacher and that person, and which way should I go, feeling so overwhelmed. I think that's where a piece of where some of that overwhelm you were talking about can come in, because it's like there's infinite possibilities and there's infinite alive pathways, emergence is happening all the time everywhere. And if you're only listening to the external voices of, you should do this, you should do that, you should try this, you should, and if there is that feeling of overwhelm, what I've been working with people on and just practicing and reorienting people to is just finding some space to clear that static, get quiet, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, and just, maybe do some sort of energy clearing to just get in your own energy. And then I think when you say what's emergent for me right now, or I started writing my journal question for a long time, it used to be, what was it? It was a Lindsay Mack question, because I can't even remember. I wrote it for years, but it was something about, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. But I switched the question that I ask in my journal to start my day. What is alive for me today?
Yes.
And then I pull my cards and then I journal in answer to that question. And I think that starting to ask yourself this question can clear away some of that overwhelm of the possibility of options. It's like what's alive for you today and I think to live emergently is to let that be the guiding question. What's alive for me today? What's alive for me in this moment? And then that is the answer for the moment. It doesn't have to be the forever answer.
Forever. Yeah, totally.
But that can clear some of that overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, to live emergently, I have this big vision that I feel like emergence is trying to take me to, but I feel so far away from that. And that can bring in the overwhelm, I think. So then to just distill it down to what is alive for me right now. Okay, that's the focus for this moment. And then you can trust. I really believe that you can trust that if you're doing that semi regularly, you are going to get to the big vision or something that you can't even imagine yet, because it's even bigger than as big as you could imagine, right? um is literally all you have to do is like, where am I right now? And that's it.
Hmm. Yes, I have found this to be true myself. Thank you so much for coming on, Lisa. This was such a rich conversation. I always love talking to you.
Thanks, Britton. Same here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Lisa Quigley. So grateful to know you, to chat with you, receive your wisdom. Listeners, if you want to connect with Lisa, if you're interested in Soothsayer, encouraging you to check out the links in the show notes to connect with Lisa and all of her containers. Follow her on Instagram. If you are one of those human beings who is hoping to join Living Emergence, you know where to get the information that you need. If you are a past or current student who has not been getting the emails about the soft launch, this is because somehow you are not on my mailing list. Maybe you unsubscribed. There are many different reasons this could be. The tag didn't connect. I don't know, but we're here to help you. Please reach out to me at info@brittonlarue.com. And we can make sure to get you into the email loop so that you can get the deep, deep discount on Living Emergence that is only available to current students and long-term students in past containers. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this series, and I will see you at the next one.